Before Jacob ever deceived his father, before Esau sold his birthright, before the brothers became enemies, God had already spoken about their future. To understand one of the most dramatic stories in the Bible, we must go back to the very beginning. Isaac, the son of Abraham, had married Rebekah. Like Abraham and Sarah before them, they longed for children but remained childless for many years. Instead of giving up, Isaac prayed earnestly to the Lord for his wife. God answered that prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant. But this pregnancy was unlike any other. The babies struggled violently within her, causing Rebekah great distress. Unable to understand what was happening, she sought the Lord. And God answered, "2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." In a culture where the firstborn son normally received the family inheritance and blessing, these words were astonishing. God was revealing that his plan would not follow human expectations. When the twins were born, the first was Esau, covered with reddish hair. Moments later came Jacob, holding onto his brother's heel, a small detail that seemed insignificant at the time, but one that would later symbolize a life marked by struggle, determination, and unexpected turns. Years later, after Esau traded his birthright for a bowl of stew, another priceless gift still remained: the father's blessing. And that blessing would soon become the center of a plan that would change their family forever. Many years passed. Abraham had long since died, and Isaac was now an old man. His hair had turned white, his body had grown weak, and his eyesight had faded until he could no longer see. Knowing that the final years of his life were approaching, Isaac decided it was time to pass on the special blessing that had been handed down from Abraham. This was no ordinary father's farewell. In those days, a father's blessing carried great spiritual significance. It was a public declaration over the future of the family and was often considered irreversible once spoken. Although Esau had already sold his birthright to Jacob, Isaac still deeply loved his firstborn son. Esau was a skilled hunter who often brought him delicious wild game, and Isaac wanted to bless him before he died. So he called Esau into his tent. "My son." "Here I am," Esau replied. Isaac said, "I am now an old man and do not know the day of my death. Take your weapons, your bow and your quiver, go out into the open country, hunt some wild game for me, and prepare the meal that I love. Then bring it to me, so that I may eat and give you my blessing before I die." Without hesitation, Esau picked up his hunting gear and left for the open country. Neither father nor son realized that someone else had heard every single word. As Esau disappeared into the wilderness, Rebekah remained hidden just outside Isaac's tent. She had heard every word. Her husband was preparing to give the family blessing to Esau. Yet, years earlier, God had spoken a remarkable prophecy: "The older will serve the younger." Those words had never left her heart. Now she believed the moment had come. Without wasting a second, Rebekah hurried through the camp in search of Jacob. "My son," she whispered urgently, "I have just heard your father speaking to Esau." She repeated Isaac's instructions exactly as she had heard them. Then she revealed her plan. "Listen carefully and do exactly as I tell you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats. I will prepare them just the way your father likes them. Then you will take the meal to him, and he will bless you instead of Esau." Jacob stared at his mother in disbelief. The plan sounded impossible. "But mother," he replied, "Esau is a hairy man, and my skin is smooth. What if father touches me? He'll know I'm pretending to be Esau. Instead of receiving a blessing, I'll bring a curse upon myself." Rebekah looked directly into her son's eyes. "If there is any curse, let it fall on me, my son. Just do what I say." Jacob hesitated. Everything depended on what he would do next. Jacob silently obeyed his mother's instructions. He went to the family flock and carefully selected 2 of the finest young goats, bringing them back to Rebekah. Working quickly, Rebekah prepared the meal exactly the way Isaac loved it. Every ingredient, every spice, every detail mattered. She knew Isaac's favorite meal so well that its aroma would be familiar to him. But the meal alone would not be enough. Isaac had lived with his sons for decades. Even though he could no longer see, he could still recognize a voice, and he certainly knew the feel of his son's hands. Rebekah brought out Esau's finest garments, clothes that carried the scent of the open fields where he hunted. She placed them on Jacob. Then she wrapped the soft skins of the young goats around Jacob's hands and the smooth part of his neck. It was an unusual disguise. Jacob looked down at himself. He could hardly believe what he was wearing. His heart pounded with fear. What if Isaac recognized his voice? What if his father reached out again? What if everything fell apart? Rebekah placed the freshly prepared meal and warm bread into Jacob's hands. Looking into his eyes, she gave one final nod. The time had come. Jacob took a deep breath and walked toward his father's tent.
Jacob slowly pulled back the entrance curtain and stepped into his father's tent. The warm glow of the oil lamps filled the room, but Isaac could no longer see who stood before him. All he had to rely on were his ears, his hands, and his sense of smell. Jacob took a deep breath. "My father," he said quietly. Isaac answered, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" For a brief moment, everything stood still. Then Jacob replied, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac frowned. Something wasn't right. "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" Jacob answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Isaac was not yet convinced. The voice sounded familiar. It reminded him of Jacob. Yet the meal smelled right. The clothing carried Esau's scent. Still, doubt remained. "Come near," Isaac said. "Let me touch you, my son, to know whether you really are Esau." Jacob slowly stepped closer. His heart pounded. Isaac reached out with trembling hands and carefully felt the goat skins covering Jacob's hands and neck. Then he spoke the famous words recorded in Genesis. The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. The disguise had worked. Yet Isaac asked one final question. "Are you really my son Esau?" Jacob answered, "I am." Isaac accepted the answer. He ate the meal, he drank the wine. Then he called Jacob closer once more. Isaac embraced him and kissed him. As he smelled the garments of the open field, every remaining doubt faded away. Stretching out his hands, Isaac began to pronounce one of the most important blessings in biblical history, a blessing that could not be taken back. Isaac drew Jacob close. He embraced him once more and breathed in the scent of Esau's garments. To the elderly patriarch, everything now seemed certain. The smell of the fields, the familiar clothing, the meal he had enjoyed. Every doubt slowly disappeared. Then Isaac lifted his trembling hands and began to speak. "May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine." His voice was steady and full of conviction. "May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." These were not ordinary words. In the ancient world, such a blessing was considered sacred. Once spoken, it was not something a father could simply take back. Isaac believed he was blessing Esau, but standing before him was Jacob. At that moment, the blessing passed to the younger brother. As the final words left Isaac's lips, Jacob knew the moment was over. He bowed respectfully to his father, gathered himself, and quietly left the tent. Outside, the evening breeze swept across the camp. For a brief moment, everything seemed peaceful, but only moments later, Esau returned home. Jacob had scarcely left his father's tent when Esau returned from the hunt. He had done exactly what Isaac had asked. After carefully preparing the meal his father loved, Esau carried it into the tent with confidence. Smiling, he said, "My father, please sit up and eat some of your son's game, so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac slowly lifted his head. Confusion filled his face. "Who are you?" Esau looked surprised. "I am your son, your firstborn." Esau. At that moment, Isaac's entire body trembled. A deep silence filled the tent. Suddenly, everything became clear. The visitor who had come before, the familiar voice, the strange feeling he could not explain. He had blessed the wrong son. With a trembling voice, Isaac said, "Then who was it that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it before you came, and I blessed him. And indeed he shall be blessed." Esau stood frozen. His heart sank. The blessing he had expected since childhood, the blessing he believed was waiting for him, was gone. The Bible tells us that Esau cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. It was a cry of heartbreak, regret, and loss. Falling before his father, Esau pleaded, "Bless me too, father." But Isaac answered with sorrow, "Your brother came deceitfully and has taken your blessing." Esau remembered something that had happened years before. First, Jacob had obtained the birthright. Now he had received the blessing. Through tears, Esau cried, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he has taken my blessing." Isaac could offer Esau a different blessing, but the covenant blessing had already been spoken. It could not be reversed in a single evening. The course of their family had changed forever. Although Isaac had given Esau a separate blessing, the relationship between the two brothers was deeply broken. Esau's grief slowly turned into anger. He began saying to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." When Rebekah learned of Esau's plan, she knew Jacob was no longer safe. She called him and said, "Your brother Esau is planning to take your life. Now listen carefully. Leave at once and go to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay there until your brother's anger has cooled." Jacob had received the blessing, but now he would leave behind his home, his parents, and everything familiar. The blessing did not spare him from hardship. In fact, the next chapter of his life would be filled with loneliness, difficult work, family struggles, and years away from home. Yet through it all, God would remain faithful to the promises he had made. This story reminds us that God can accomplish his purposes even through imperfect people. At the same time, the Bible does not celebrate deception. Jacob's actions brought real consequences that affected his entire family. Genesis invites us to see both truths together. God's faithfulness never fails, and our choices still matter. As Jacob walked away from the tents of his childhood, he had no idea that his journey was only beginning. Ahead of him lay a lonely night in the wilderness, a stone for a pillow, and a dream unlike anything he had ever imagined. That remarkable encounter with God would change Jacob's life forever. But that is a story for another time. Thank you for watching Bible Stories Made Simple. If this story helped you understand the Bible more clearly, please like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who would enjoy it. And don't miss our next episode, Jacob's Dream at Bethel, the Stairway to Heaven Explained. Until next time, keep reading God's Word and may the Lord bless you.